Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Victoria Online. It's wonderful to have you with us on this absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous summer. Well, it's a summer day, even though it's just springtime. Such a wonderful time to be out and about and looking at all of nature. And so we're especially grateful to have you here with us today. And I would like to invite Reverend Rachel to do our opening treatment today. Rachel?
Thank you, Carrie. I am grateful for the sweetness and purity of the essence of my soul. We are grateful to joyfully bask in the light of our being. We emanate the brightest light imaginable out of every cell. As you close your eyes, I invite you to enjoy shining like the sun, feeling a million rays of sunlight and joy light blazing blissfully out of your being. Dear Spirit, I am happy and complete, today and forever. Within me is that which is perfect and complete. It is the spirit of all life, truth, and action. I am happy in the certain knowledge of this inner light. I cannot be sad nor sorry, but must radiate joy and life, for life is within me now. I am happy and complete, and so it is.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And now we have the gift of music from our wonderful Darlene Haynes.
Thank you, Carrie. This morning I'd like to share with you a song by Karen Drucker along with David Roth and Faith Rivera, and it's called Morning Prayer, I Will Surrender. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am stronger every moment, every day. My mind is willing and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts and let Spirit be my guide. I vow to live a life that's real and true and free as I continue walking in this mystery. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am stronger every moment, every day. There may be walls, there may be roadblocks in my way, but I can choose to take a higher path each day. And now I know that what I thought was safe and sound was only habit and regret that held me down. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am stronger every moment, every day. And I am stronger every moment, every day.
Oh, thank you, darling. That was beautiful. That's a new song to me.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Oh, really lovely. Thanks again. Well, so this is my third week in talking about Mark Anthony Lord's book, The Seven Living Words. And of course, he was speaking about the last words of Christ during the crucifixion. And they weren't just single words. When he talks about the word, he's actually talking about each of the statements that Jesus made or the prayers when he was on the cross. Now, Mark came um, to a belief in Jesus later, not late in life because he's not that old, but certainly later in his spiritual studies. It wasn't something that was always with him, but all of a sudden one day, as people would ask him if he believed in Jesus and believed in scripture and so on, and he would always get really uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable thing sometimes for those of us who are um, ministers in New Thought. And the thing is, there's such a thing as New Thought Christianity, which is very different or quite different from traditional Christianity, where we believe that Jesus is the example of who we might be. He's the way shower. The stories that he is reputed to have told in biblical scripture are stories that we can absorb into our own lives. And if we live by those stories, if we live by the goodness that's in them, we can all have much happier, healthier lives and live from a higher place in consciousness. And that's what Mark discovered that he was doing. As he became closer and closer to Jesus and to the teachings of Jesus, he started to say he just knew that he was loved by Jesus and that he loved Jesus in return. And he said, I don't care whether you believe me or not. I don't care what you believe. And he didn't mean that in a negative way, in a way of criticizing people. He just simply was not judgmental or critical of what anybody else thought. He knew his own truth. And as Dr. Holmes said, we all have our own truth within us. And it might be different for different people. And so we honor that in everyone and we don't criticize other people for it. Now, the last couple of weeks I've spoken about Mark's discovery and some of his background. And so today I'm just getting into the first word. And the first word is forgiveness. And I kind of, shrugged my shoulders when I looked at that because in ministerial training, my teacher, Terry Shea, said, don't talk about forgiveness and don't talk about money because people will run for the door. And you're all here, you're all at home. I don't think you're going to be running for the door today. So hang on to your seats because here we go with forgiveness. The thing is that Mark says, it's the first living word and it's the place where we are guided to begin. And he said, what was Jesus thinking anyway? That we have to begin with forgiveness. One of the most difficult things that many of us will ever face is forgiveness. If we have been deeply wounded, hurt, betrayed, those things carve pretty deep wounds within us if they were done at an early age or at any time in our lives. And they can be things that we might be carrying with us this morning, even something that somebody said to us yesterday. But the really deep ones are things that have had a big impact on our lives from time to time. And so, he said, why didn't Jesus just say, forgiveness is a really good thing, but, think about it for a while. Just be calm, just relax and go about your business and think about it. Don't worry about getting into it right away, but that's not what it's all about. It's about doing it right now, doing it today, getting rid of it, surrendering it. And he says, forgiveness it is, and it is the perfect place to begin. Without it, we have nothing to stand upon, to build upon. Now, it's confusing, you know. Does that mean we're supposed to forget everything that's ever happened to us that we didn't like? anything that upset us along the way. We hurt. How can we forgive? We might say, you have no idea how awful it is. You have no idea how much I've suffered. You have no idea really what that person did to me. I mean, is that kind of the voice that's going on when you think about forgiveness? We feel angry and persecuted and wronged and dismayed about having to take the high road. Why is it up to me to take the high road? How about the other guy? How about that person coming to me and asking for forgiveness? But that's really not what it's all about. Forgiveness does not mean defeat. It doesn't mean that we condone what's happened to us either, but it does not mean defeat. It's some of us look at our problems, our challenges, the things that we feel have been done unto us, if we're feeling victimized. We're kind of hanging on to it in the way that somebody in a storm afloat in the sea would be hanging on to a life preserver. And that's not where life begins. That's not what saves us. That's not what saves our lives. What does save our lives is being able to release some of that anger, some of that hurt, some of that hostility that we might carry. Catherine Ponder, who is an amazing minister and spiritual writer, said, when you hold resentment toward another, you are bound to that person or condition by an emotional link that is stronger than steel. Think about that, stronger than steel. Forgiveness is the only way to dissolve that link and to get free. So we have different ways of dealing with these things. And as I was thinking about this week, I remembered somebody from my distant past, about 30 years ago. He had an office next to mine, and he was very well connected politically and well connected to the corporate world. And he popped into my office one day and sat down. He had a big grin on his face, and I said, what's so funny? What are you so happy about? And he said, well, and he named the president of a major company that had made him really angry. And he didn't tell me what it was that this person had done. And so I'll call my friend and colleague, George. So George said to me, I'm not angry at all, really. He said, I may have been, but he said, I don't get mad, I get even. And so he said, today I got even. And I said, what do you mean you got even? What did you do? And he said, well, I have friends in the hydro company. In fact, the head of hydro is a good friend of mine. And so I just phoned him, and I had all of the lights turned off, all of the power turned off in that person's building today. And so he said, he has no idea, the president of that corporation has no idea that I made that happen. But I said, he's suffering as a result of it today. And I was kind of stunned by that, because I've heard other people say things like that, and I've read stories about things that people have done. I don't know if you read the story in the newspaper years ago about the woman whose partner she'd lived with for a couple of years was going to Japan, and he told her that when he returned in a month that he wanted her gone and that all of her belongings should be gone as well. And she was angry. And so he left, and all the time he was away, he was really worried about what she might do. He was worried that she might destroy his furniture, that she might spray paint on the walls, or, do something really horrible. And when he returned, he was really surprised to see everything was just in perfect order, nothing out of place. And he walked into his office, his home office, and he had and back in the day had one of those old wall telephones, not something that plugs in, but the one that has the cord attached to it. And he said that, or the story goes, that the phone was off the hook. And when he picked it up, his former partner he realized had called Tokyo and had called a service that gave the time and the date and the temperature in Tokyo that day, and played over and over and over again, constantly being updated. And so for the month that he was gone, there was a telephone bill mounting from his home in the US to Tokyo. You know, these kinds of things, while some might think they're kind of funny and what a way to get even, are really terrible. And as you know, I have some favorite expressions about forgiveness. And, one of them is, would you rather be right or happy? And another one is, why give that person free rent in your head? I really like that. And that's been picked, it's not mine. It came from Marianne Williamson. And it's been picked up a lot by people everywhere that I see on television. I hear them using it over and over again. But I think my favorite of all um, is the inability to forgive someone else is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It is so toxic. And so when I think about these people who are getting even and laughing about it, the thing is, they're not forgetting, they're not forgiving, they're not getting that person out of their head. That person has free rent in their head maybe for the rest of their lives, because as they tell their story over and over again, or or as they think to themselves how self-satisfying it was to do whatever it was they did, they're still holding that person in their minds, in their consciousness, that is taking up space that could be filled with so many beautiful things. And so, when we're feeling these things, we have to understand that sometimes this toxicity can even make us really sick. And so it just is not worth it to carry it with us. It is something that we need to surrender, and not necessarily the easiest thing to do, and it also means often getting to a core issue. Now, I have a friend from, I guess the past 30 years, and she's a pretty positive person. And she moved away from where I lived after about, I guess after we'd known one another for about 10 years. And she would she would phone me from time to time. And I found that after she left, when she phoned me, that she would phone me because she had something awful happen. She was in some kind of drama. And I would listen, because I always feel that if you just listen and you don't say very much, that sometimes, people are listening to themselves and they come to some conclusion about things. And she would very often come to the conclusion that this person had, treated her in some way that reminded her of her mother, and that her mother had been very mean and, was really hard on her, and yet was not on her brother. Her brother was younger than she. And she said also she was an immigrant to this country, and her mother couldn't speak English. And so she was the one, as an 11-year-old, who had to translate everything, and who had to, go with her mother into stores and tell people what her mother wanted. And so she became kind of an adult at a very early age. But she said her mother was always very cranky, very self-possessed, and she was never close to her. She couldn't ever be close to her. And I suggested to her from time to time that she might have a look at that and see if she couldn't just forgive it along the way. And one day she called me, and she was really, really upset. She was going through the same kind of drama all over again. And I let her go for a while. And then she said, I know that this is about my mother. I know it's about my mother. And I said to her, is it really about your mother in the way that you think it is? I said, or is it because you don't think that anyone has ever looked after you? Well, she burst into tears. She sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. She said, no one ever did. I was the one. I had to look after my mother. I had to look after the family. I married twice. She said, my second husband left me with a baby and two older sons, 3 and 5 in age. She said, I had to bring them up. She said, I went to college. I got a degree. I got a decent job, but it wasn't extremely well paying. But she said, I had to be the one who looked after everybody. She said, I still looking after everybody. And I said, then have a look at that. That is your core issue. I said, can you look at your mother in a different way? Can you look at her thinking, this was a gift. This made me very strong at age 11. This empowered me. This allowed me to go out and to be like an adult when I spoke to other people. Because I know that this woman also knows how to play. She can have a good time in her life. So it wasn't that she was always feeling that way. I said, look at what this is doing to you. There have to be gifts in this somewhere. And I really want you to look at that. And know that you are always cared for. No matter what's gone on in your life, you have gone through it. You have aced a whole lot of situations. And so can you just look at this as a gift from God? That you made the decision that you were going to show up in this lifetime with this issue so that you could overcome feelings of never being cared for, and know that the loving arms of God, metaphorically, are always, excuse me, are always around you. That you are held in the arms of God, in the love of God, in the arms of grace. And she just kept crying and crying and crying. And I prayed with her. And she called me back about a week later and she said, it worked. She said, I've finally been able to release my mom. She'd been dead for many years, but she said, I was finally able to release. And she said, you know what? I said, what? And she said, my mother actually loved me. Imagine after decades, finally understanding that your mother really did love you, when all that time you're building up a case against her for all of the things that she did that were wrong, for all that you didn't have. We might each have a different version of that in our own lives, whether with it's a parent or a sibling or someone we've worked with, whatever. And we truly have to get to that place where we can know the perfection of God, the wholeness, the perfection, that it is in everyone, and that we just simply ask God to love that person through us. I've said that before, love this person through me. Love this person through me. And continue to do it as long as it takes until you feel the love of God just pouring through you, flooding through your whole being. And you just feel the release. You feel the surrender. You feel the peace. Mark's mother had a similar experience where she was deserted by her husband when Mark was a little boy. And she went to college and got a degree. But Mark said she was never happy. She could never be joyful. She was always blaming her ex-husband for leaving. And he said that when he became a minister, he one day gave her the gift of a spiritual counseling session with a really wonderful minister. And his mother went, and she went to see Mark afterward, and she said, I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. And now I completely understand. And she said, I am able to release your father. I recognize that there are many gifts in my life and that I have wasted so much time being angry and sad when there's so much joy out there to be had. And Mark said, there is no time lost in the mind of God. Think about that. There is no time lost in the mind of God. We all come to an epiphany somewhere along the way if we allow ourselves to do that. There's no judgment from God. There's no criticism from God. There's just pure love, compassion, understanding. And so let's not chastise ourselves about how long it's taken us to surrender to God. And let's pour love through everyone. And let's know that no one can really harm us except ourselves. Who are we holding in our heads? What cup of poison has someone sipped that is affecting our own lives rather than theirs? Or do we really think the other person is going to die? It's what's hurting us, and it's so important to let it go and to understand that at the core of everything like this, there is fear. And remember that you are a wonderful expression of God, and that in God there is no fear. God is not afraid. And so allow this magnificence to just pour through you, and to recognize the power, that incredible power that is within you. You know, we don't really walk the path of freedom until we can look at the things that are the worst in our lives and find a gift in it somewhere. And there is always a gift. And the closer that we get to aligning with God, the faster we see the gift. If something happened yesterday, we can look at it today and say, okay, I see what that's about now. This is what I've learned from that. And just let that person go. It does, and I've said before, it doesn't mean you got to invite the person to dinner. Doesn't mean you got to hang out with that person. Just let it go. Be kind to yourself. Be good to yourself. Release and let go. You know, Mark studied, as I said earlier, of course, studied the teachings of Jesus and the crucifixion. And many, many, many years ago, I was asked to speak at a Unity church on Easter Sunday. And I was asked to talk about forgiveness. And whenever I thought about forgiveness in a biblical sense, what came to mind was the words of Jesus on the cross, as they're reported in the Bible to be, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. If we can look at those that we feel have betrayed us, have hurt us in some way, and understand that they didn't know what they were doing, we might say, oh, yes, they did. That was deliberate. But the thing is, at a very deep, deep place in their being, they did not know what they were doing. They didn't understand the depth of the hurt that they could cause. And so when we forgive, we're freeing them. And they can go on about their lives the way that they want to. But we're free, absolutely free, to live the life that we are meant to live, and not to carry all of this heavy stuff around with us, not to drag it behind us. We don't really know what happened at the crucifixion, or happened centuries ago. If there was that crucifixion of a man named Jesus, we don't know. But there's a great release into freedom when we forgive. And so we set ourselves free, and our lives will change dramatically when we do, when we follow those words. And I'd like to invite you now to just go into the quiet and close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, because I want to do a brief meditation and prayer. And this is from Mark's book. I just have to change my glasses. Oh, so through the eyes of love, pause for a moment. Think about your day. Think about the past couple of days, or even the past week. Think about something you might have said or done out of ignorance of the love that you really are. Call to mind anything that you observed another person saying or doing that drummed up judgment in you. See if you can reframe that experience to one where you see yourself and others as simply knowing not what we do. How often have we said, I didn't mean that. I really didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to hurt you. You know, Mark says, simply go into that space of knowing that we knew not what we were doing. And with these thoughts in mind, join me in this prayer. Father, Mother, God, I ask that forgiveness for the large or small transgressions of thought, word, or deed be done through me. Truly, in fear, I know not what I do. Help me, through your deep compassion, to see and know when I am motivated by fear. Help me to breathe, to acknowledge love's presence, to choose again. Help me to be the space of compassion that allows others to see, not as I see, but in whatever way is right for them, to see greater love and faith in oneness. Make me a channel of forgiveness. Make me a channel of forgiveness. Make me a channel of your forgiveness, your love, your compassion, your strength. And so it is. And so it is, everyone. And I invite you now, as we pass the metaphorical basket, if you would like to make a donation to us today, you can simply make an e-transfer to donate at cslvictoria.org, or you can go to our website, www.cslvictoria.org, and make a donation through PayPal. Or you can send a check to our treasurer, Lillian Slanina, and hopefully those things will work for you. If you need any further information, feel free to get in touch with me, and I can let you know about that. And I want you to know how much your contributions mean to us. The fact that you continue to give during these times is really important to us, because that's what helps to keep our center alive and well, online, but also when we get back into our physical location again, the one that we love so much. So I bless you for your gifts, and bless you as you go forward. And I would like to invite Reverend Joanna to do our closing prayer today.
Thank you, Reverend Carrie. And so, as we focus on forgiveness, focus on the truth of the power of love and forgiving, let us just open our hearts to the possibility of living without any traces of anger or resentment or fear that we may have brought forward from past experiences in our lives. Let us truly hear the message of Mark Lord's book and truly learn to forgive now, not as an exercise where, yes, I should forgive and I'll get around to that in a while, but an exercise where each day we come fresh to the day with love, with compassion, with empathy, with understanding, and with forgiveness in our hearts. So on this beautiful spring day, let us hold that powerful, loving message as we go forward into the coming week, knowing that each one of us is a divine expression of that one great power that is all there is, and that we are each held in love, we are held in perfect understanding, in perfect health and perfect wisdom. All of this is available to us through Spirit, through God, the universal one. And we are one in Spirit. I know that perfect health, perfect understanding, and perfect love is expressing in each of our lives right here, right now. I release my word to Spirit, to the law, knowing it is so, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Reverend Joanna, and thank you all for being here today. God bless you as you go forward into this beautiful week. Get out there in the sunshine and smell the flowers. And let's just know that our hearts are uplifted as we really understand how letting go and letting God makes all the difference in our lives. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye for now.